Welcome to the October 10 cards 1 kit video for this month. We are discussing this stamp set from Hero Arts. There are a bunch of unboxing videos out there already, so if you're really interested to see what all came in the kit, I suggest you check out one of those. But it has a bunch of really tiny stamps, so we're going to use these to make some cards. If you like this video, please subscribe or click like so I know that somebody's watching them. And let's get started. Hello and welcome to card number 1. I'm going to try to make a scene card using this window die. I wish I had labeled this, but I'm pretty sure this is from Memory Box. I know several companies have something similar, but I'm pretty sure this was Memory Box. So I die cut one of those out of white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp using some Lawn Fawn black ink the sentiment onto this corner right here. And there is a little scored line, and I know it's not going to stamp perfectly, but I don't think anyone's going to have any trouble reading it. So I'm going to stick it here. Okay. Perfect. So it says warm winter wishes. Unfortunately, this is not part of the Hero Arts kit. I tried really hard to stick to this. However, I felt like the sentiments here were kind of they were a little bit hard to use. I will plan on using them in the other cards, but this one, I couldn't find anything that would fit onto the window frame except for 'Tis the Season. But because I'm not using any of the Santa stuff, I'm using all the winter stuff, I didn't really want to put 'Tis the Season. So I'm using Warm Winter Wishes on this. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I have some temporary adhesive, and what I'm going to do is put some onto the back of each of these squares, and I'm going to tape it down to my workspace. And then I'm going to pick this up. And then this way I can do my stamping without getting the ink on my white frame. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the mountains off, and I'm going to use Memento ink because I'm going to color these with my Copics. I'm going to create a mountain range here in the background. And then I'm going to use a Post-it note as kind of a mask here, because I'm going to add a couple more here in the background. I guess I need another Post-it note. Let me find one. I'm just going to put a few more mountains back here, just so it fills in that space. Perfect. There they go. So there's our mountain range. Then I'm going to grab this tiny tree, and we're going to add a couple trees in here. So put a tree here, put one down here, and back here a little bit. And then I thought it would be kind of funny if we used the polar bear. Let me find the polar bear. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to see if I wonder what a polar bear would do if he saw a snowman. And when both of these images were in this stamp set, I thought that might be kind of cool to have the polar bear inspecting the snow guy. Kind of just imagining what he would do. All right. So that's all of the stamping here for our scene. I'm going to color this with my Copic markers. Oh wait, I'm sorry, there's one more thing. I am going to stamp a horizon line. This stamp is just a line that comes in the kit. I think they mean it to be a snowbank, but I thought in this case it might help us create a horizon, or just kind of help add some depth to our scene. I don't know why, but breaking that up, I think, makes it look like it's farther back. And now I'm going to color this with Copics. Because this is not a Copic video, I'm not going to go through all the steps of this. I'm just going to speed this part up. Okay, so there's the Copic coloring, very quick. In some places I only even use one color because these are very, very small spaces. I guess the one thing I forgot to add is just a smidgen of orange on his nose. Okay, so we're all done coloring. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my two-way glue pen and I'm going to add some glue to the tops of these snow caps. And I have some fine glitter. And I'm going to add that to the snow caps just so they glisten a little bit in the sunlight. See if I can hold that up for you so they just sparkle just a tiny little bit. And we're going to pull these up because we don't need them attached anymore. Then I've already embossed a piece of blue cardstock. I used this Cuttlebug folder that I had in my stash. I used a piece of blue paper and I embossed that. Then what I'm going to do is take some foam and adhere that to the back of this die cut. And I'm going to set that aside to dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to tie a ribbon around the bottom of my card. Okay, now that I have the ribbon tied to the bottom, what I'm going to do is add adhesive to the back of my embossed panel. And glue that to the front of an A2 card. And this panel was cut to 5 1/4 by 4 so that a little bit of that white border shows all the way around. And while I have the adhesive out, I'm also going to put that on the back of my window. I cut a piece of foam to match, and then I'm going to put my window. I'm going to scoop my string down just a smidgen and then center my window. And then I'm going to add adhesive into each of these wells. And then I'm going to insert the pieces back in. And I like the depth that the foam gives to this scene. And I found that you have to wiggle the pieces in there a little bit because there is a little wiggle room, so you don't want any of that blue to show, so I just kind of slide them around before the glue sets. Okay, and for my last step, I thought it would be kind of cute if somebody was looking in on this scene. So I'm going to add just a dot of glue here in the corner, and I found this die cut in my stash. Just thought this added a little something. It's kind of like that cat's watching to see what that polar bear does to the snowman. And that's our first card. Welcome to card number 2. This time I'm going to do use some of the Santa stamps that are in this. I'm taking a 1/4 piece of cardstock and I'm going to stamp what I imagine is a house very similar to what Santa Claus lives in. And because I'm going to use my Copics to color this in, I'm going to use my Memento ink. Feel free to use whatever ink is appropriate to what you're doing. And I'm going to stamp that towards the right side of the card. And then I'm going to take the Mrs. Claus stamp set, or stamp rather, and ink her up, and I'm going to have her stand just outside the house. Then on a scrap piece of cardstock, I'm going to stamp Santa, and I'm going to cut him out and glue him into the scene. But there's also another stamp that says ho ho ho, and I'm going to place that right here. Okay, now that I have these all colored, there's a coordinating die that comes with the Santa, but it leaves this white ring around the edge, and I don't want that in front of my house, so I'm going to cut him out by hand. I don't know, I don't mind fussy cutting. I know some people hate it, but it's up to you. You can use the die to do this step if you're not bothered by that white halo. Okay, now that I have this all cut out, let's put this together. I'm going to glue Santa down next to Mrs. Claus. Then I'm going to take my 2A glue pen and I'm going to add some glue to the snow and also to the snow by their feet. And this is just some glitter I picked up. It's just regular glitter. I got it, I think, at Michael's. And I put it in a Tupperware container. I'm just dumping some onto that areas with glue, dumping the excess back into the container. Then I have this die cut in my stash. It says Christmas. I think it's from Whimsy. And I die cut this out of red cardstock. Now, interestingly, the die does not come with an eye, a dot for the eye. So I like to keep a little piece of scrap from one of the other letters, like the S, to make the dot on the eye. I'm not sure why that is, but that's true. Then I'm going to put glue onto the back of the Christmas. Now you could place this anywhere you wanted, but I kind of like the way the T is. So I'm going to put that by like where Mr. and Mrs. Claus is standing, so it almost looks like they're standing on top of that T. Not quite, but kind of. I'm going to take one of those little scraps from the die cut and I'm going to glue that down. Sorry if I got off camera there a second. And then I'm going to use some part of the sentiments that came with this kit. There is a phrase that says it's Christmas time, but what I cut that apart and I'm going to add the it's and the time to this sentiment, or this die cut. I'm going to stamp the time right here. Then pull the it's. And I love that this sentiment has this little curl here, and I'm going to stamp the it's right inside there. And I decided to use a top fold card. I'm going to add adhesive to my panel, and then card number 2 is complete. Okay, my hopes is to create a nighttime scene over the city. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow to sponge an area right here, and this is where I want my moon to be. Then I'm going to take a brayer. You guys remember brayers? I haven't used mine in a really long time. And if it's been a while, so what you do is you take your brayer and you're going to ink up your ink pad. And then starting off your paper, and at first it's really light, and you're going to repeat this step. And each time you do it, it gets a slightly darker. And if you have distress inks and all that kind of stuff, you could do that with them. It's just, this is kind of fun to switch it up, try something different. Maybe you already have these in your scene, or your stash, I mean. And I'm going to continue to come in there and do some other things. But I used a piece of black paper to die cut the scene. This is gonna live down here towards the bottom of the card. And what it's trying to do is kind of create a city glow here. Then I'm gonna take some blue and I'm gonna fill in the rest. And I think I'm gonna do navy. I haven't quite decided yet. All right, I've die cut a circle that I'm gonna put over this. And I'm hoping that will stay yellow underneath so that the moon is still yellow. I'm going to start off with this. It's called Not Quite Navy because it's not as dark as navy. I figured we can always go darker, but we can't go lighter. So what we're going to do is I'm going to brayer from the other side. And I don't want it to be black because if it's black, then you know, you can't see anything in the sky. And I'm hoping to put Santa and his reindeer in the sky here. All right, and you darken it up a little bit more. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna layer a little bit of navy on here to darken up a little bit, but not all of it. I think I like this, it's not a true ombre, but so now I'm using navy, I'm inking up my brayer. And because I went to a darker color, I don't have to clean my brayer. If I was to go back to yellow, you need to clean your brayer between colors. And that did darken up the top just a little bit. Do it one more time. Again, I don't want it to be so dark that we're not going to see Santa. Okay. Let's pull off our mask. We got a nice bright moon. We have our cityscape. It's kind of nice. Let's get out the Santa and his reindeer. And I'm going to use, in this case, my Lawn Fawn black. I think this is a little bit nicer black than Memento. It's more true since we're going for like a silhouette. And I'm not going to stamp it in the center because I think that's kind of weird. Okay, so I'm going to take this white ink, if I can get it open. And very lightly onto the tops of each of these structures. And I don't care if it's even because snow isn't necessarily even. I think I like that. So I got a little thumbprint here in the bottom corner. Not sure if the camera can pick that up or not. But I have an eraser here with the sandpaper in it. And I think that'll take that off no problem. And it does. If you had white core black paper, which this is not, this would be a horrible idea, but this is just black cardstock, nothing fancy. And I think I'm going to try taking the snow stamp from the set and adding some snowflakes. And this is pigment ink, so it takes a while to dry, so we're going to have to be careful not to smudge. And I'm not going to go crazy, but just a little. Maybe not even re-ink it each time. Just breaking up that color a little bit. Okay, I'm in the territory of going crazy. It shows up much darker or nicer in the top, and as it goes down, it's harder to see because the color's not as deep, but that's okay. I think what I'm going to do here is take my finger and dab on top of these to soften them a little bit so they're not as bright. I don't want them to be the focal point of the card. So let's see if I can see they're on there. These are still a little brighter than the others, but that's alright. And then I'm going to take the words Merry Christmas. gonna wait to stamp these. I think what I'm gonna do is do the rest of the card. This is not a true A2. This is slightly smaller. I'm going to put a strip of paper and some ribbon here on this edge. So I think I'm gonna do that first and then see where I want my sentiment. Okay, so I took a border punch and I made this scalloped border edge, and I'm going to glue that onto the side of my white, or I'm sorry, to the panel that we made. I just put the glue on the wrong side of the paper. Oh well, we can fix that. Okay. And then I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to add glue to the back of our cityscape here. And I'm going to trim off the part that hangs off. And I made this panel bigger than I thought I would use. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with this yet. So I'm trying to decide how much of this navy card base I want to show. Can't decide if I like that bow on there or not. Kind of seems like it's distracting from my focal point. I think what I'm going to do is glue this base down. Just using my scissors to trim up that edge. Throw this away. Okay, so I decided I didn't like that thick silver ribbon. I think it was distracting away from Santa and his reindeer. So I went back in my stash and I found this silver cord. I also bought this at Michael's or Joann's, someplace like that. It's just real thin like baker's twine. I wrapped that around the card twice and tied a bow, and I just like that it adds a little sparkle. And then for the sentiment, I inked up Merry Christmas in the Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment up here by Santa. Merry Christmas. And that's card number 3. Okay, welcome back to card number 4. What I have done is I've taken a piece of light blue cardstock and I die cut a snowflake out of the front of it. This is from Stampin' Up! Then I ran it through an embossing folder from Taylor Expressions that has snowflakes on it to create this light blue panel that has snowflakes and a hole in it. Then I cut a piece of white cardstock that I'm going to layer behind this, and I'm going to do my stamping through this hole so I have my images right where I want them. And the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the greeting. I'm going to use the greeting that says Greetings from the North Pole, and I'm using my Lawn Fawn black ink so it's nice and black. And I'm stamping that right at the bottom of the snowflake. Slide this up. Then my next step is, and I'm going to use Memento ink for the rest of the stamping, or at least this next part, because I am going to use some Copics to add some shadows. I'm inking up the igloo. Let's see. I'm going to stamp the igloo right above the word greetings. And then I'm going to grab the penguin. And I think I am going to stamp this in the Lawn Fawn. Lawn Fawn is just a really, really nice black ink. And I don't think I'm going to do much Copic coloring with these. So I want my penguins to be nice and black. I'm going to put one penguin right outside the igloo. Put one right here. I think I'm going to put one on top of the igloo. I'd like to fit one more in there. Maybe down here. Okay, kind of like that. So now I'm going to put this away. And I'm going to get out some Copic markers. I'm going to speed this coloring up. Now that that's finished, I'm going to I'm going to just trim this white panel down, see how it sticks off on the side. So this is kind of where I want it to sit. So the next thing I'm going to do is kind of trim this down just a smidgen. Pull that away. And I'm going to add a little bit of this silver twine to the bottom of this card. The bow tie, I'm going to take some white foam, and I'm just going to cut it into some strips. I'm going to add some foam to the back of this card so it adds a little dimension. And now I'm going to add some adhesive to these pieces here, right here, and then place this on top of that stamped piece. And then we can add some adhesive. Then I'm adhering this to a top fold white card. Make sure that's centered. And let that dry. And here is card number 4. All right, for card number 5, I'm going to use a piece of, it's close to a craft. It's probably a little lighter than the color craft cardstock as my card panel. And then I'm pulling out a stamp from my stash that is a bunch of pine needles. And I'm inking this up in some green ink. I believe this is a Stampin' Up set. It's called Ornamental Pine. And I'm going to stamp up here in the corner some green. Okay, I like that it is not super bold. I kind of want these to fade into the background because I don't want them to be the focal point. I am going to add a few more, like there's another branch coming in. I want it to kind of look like this is a Christmas tree or a section of a Christmas tree is the look I'm going for. So just a few more up here to fill it in. Okay, the next thing I did was I took an ornament die and die cut an ornament. I'm not sure who makes this. I've had it forever. It's just a round ornament die. I know several companies have these out now, so they're pretty easy to find. And then I'm going to take my Copics and I'm actually going to color the top. And I'm using browns because my card base is brown and I want it to match. So I'm just going to color the top of this brown. Okay, and then I am going to take Mr. and Mrs. Claus. I really like these stamps in this set, and use my Memento ink to stamp them in my ornament. So there's Mr. Claus. And then here's his Mrs. I'm going to stamp that ho 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 again. And now I'm going to color these images in. I'll speed this up so you're not bored out of your mind. Okay, now that I have that colored, what I'm going to do, and notice that the snow down here is really messy. it doesn't matter because I just wanted it to have a hint of blue. And I'm going to take my two-way glue pen and I'm going to color that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and dip that into my glitter so that it has a sparkly finish. Okay, and then I'm going to take some of that twine. I also have it in gold. So I'm going to cut a piece and make a bow. And I'm also going to cut another piece that I can put onto my card base. And I am going to take this and thread this through the top of the ornament. And then I'm going to just take a regular piece of tape and tape that down on the back. And I'm going to take my card base and kind of imagine where I want this ornament to sit. I'm going to play with this. And then also tape it to the back of the card. You can put adhesive under the ornament and then glue that to the card base. Then I'm going to take a glue dot and put that on top of the ornament and put my bow down, and then I can trim the ends. I'm leaving the ends on these are kind of long. I like the way it looks on this. And then I decided I'm going to stamp Happy Holidays on this one. I just like that it's longer. And I'm using my Lawn Fawn Black to do that. Let's zoom out here. I'm going to put that down here. And now I'm going to glue this to my side fold white card base. And then I found, I don't know where I got this. I've had it forever, but it's kind of like a, it's got gold in it, but it's not mere gold. It's kind of like brushed gold. I think that's the right word. I like that it's real soft. I'll have to look for this in the craft stores when I go. Just a little scrap, but I think it accents that gold ribbon real nice without being distracting. And there we go. There's card number 5. Okay, for card number 6, I'm going to do something I haven't done in a really long time, which is reverse masking. So I have a 4" by 4" piece of cardstock here. I'm going to make a square card, and I die cut out of a piece of scrap paper a circle out of another 4" square. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the circle over the center of the card so I can line that up. And I'm just eyeballing it. And then I'm placing the mask over the top, and then I'm going to pull up. There's I should have said I put removable adhesive onto the back of that so it adheres to the square. And there we go. We have a mask for our cardstock. Then I can set this aside. I'm going to use that, or I might use it on another card later. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a light blue and a navy blue ink, and I'm going to do some sponging. And I created a few masks. I went through my die cuts and I found some snowbanks, and I just created these so I can use them as masks. I'm going to start with my light blue. And this is just regular dye-based Stampin' Up! Ink. You can do this with Distress inks. I have them, but these were on my desk from the other cards, so we used to use them for this all the time. I don't know why we we stopped, like, we have to use distressing. So anyway, going old school. And I am just sponging some blue ink along the edge of this card. And this to me is the sky, so I'm going to go a little bit farther. And while I have that mask down, I am also going to add some navy and darken up that sky a little bit. Just come in off the edge of that. Cool. Add a little bit more light blue. I think I'm done with the dark blue. If you were going to make this card at home, one of the things I would advise is making this mask a little bit larger than your workspace. I got a little bit of navy ink because of just how I placed them. It's going to be a big deal, no, but if you wanted to save yourself a step. Alright, so now we have a blue sky, and I'm going to find another shape. Let's see. Come in here. And I want to make sure I leave some white in here. Basically, when you want snow, snow's white, right? So what you're doing is adding in the shadow. So by doing this, this kind of just creates like snowbanks, a layered feel to it. And then I'm also going to come in at the bottom of this circle and do some sponging. So it keeps that circle shape. I'm just going to look like another snowbank. And while I have the mask on, I'm all done sponging. I'm going to take the mountain stamp and I'm going to use my Lawn Fawn ink to stamp a mountain range here in the back. Okay. Let's set that aside. And now we can pull this mask up. And see a little bit of navy here. I think I can fix this even if I just have to trim down my squares so it's just shy of 4 inches. It'll be fine, but there we go. Now I'm going to put the mountain range away and I'm going to grab the little tree stamp. And I'm going to also stamp this in Lawn Fawn. And I'm going to continue, so I wanted to kind of be like, we're looking through this like telescope or something to see just the circle, but to kind of pull us in or anchor the image, I'm going to stamp outside the circle in. There's our little tree. And then using my Memento ink, because I'm going to color this bear, I'm going to put a bear in the scene. Let's see. Tempted to put him up here. No, I don't know. Stick him here. Like he's walking into this scene. And while I have my stamps out and we're continuing with stamping, I'm going to put the sentiment on here as well. And I decided I'm going to stamp It's Christmas Time. I cut my It's Christmas Time apart, so I'm just making sure that all my words are lined up. I think that looks nice. And I'm going to put my sentiment down here in the corner. And we're going to put more up in there. I'll show you. I just get that out of the way while we're doing it. Alright, I'll be back in a moment. I'm going to color my polar bear. Okay, I have the polar bear colored. And also while I was up, I got my mono sand eraser and I sanded the top, and then that blue at the top came right off, so no big deal. So it was an easy fix. If you don't have one of these in your stamping collection, totally recommend it because those things are a lifesaver. Alright, so now that we have our scene stamped, I also colored this Christmas tree, and we're going to add this Christmas tree to our scene. And also we are going to take our two-way glue pen, and on the snow parts of each of these mountains, I'm going to place some glitter just for a little bit of shine on these cards. And then I'm going to start layering these up, so I'm just going to add adhesive to these panels. There we go, card number 6 is complete. For card number 7, I am going to use the snowbank, and I don't know if you can see it, it's not straight. I kind of put an arc in it because I wanted there to be an arc in it. And I'm going to ink that up with my Lawn Fawn ink. And I'm going to stamp a snowbank here. And then I'm going to continue. Actually, I think I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. I don't want it to be exactly the same. Let's see. And this one going downhill a little bit. And there. And then I die cut this tag from, I believe this is a My Favorite Things. It's like a little flag die. And I cut one of those, and I'm also going to put a snowbank across this as well. And I'm going to do this much lower. Right there. Alright, so we're all done with this. And then I have the tree stamp that came in the set. I'm going to stamp one of those here. And I'm doing all this in Lawn Fawn ink. And now I'm going to use my Post-it note because I want my trees to be different sizes. I don't want them all to be the same. So we'll have this one, I feel like Bob Ross. A little happy tree is going to live there. And then we'll have another happy tree live right here. And then on this side, we'll have another little tree. So we kind of got like this little forest thing going on back there. And so I'm going to put my Lawn Fawn ink away because the next step I am going to color with Copics. And I'm going to take out this cute little house. I haven't used this yet. So I wanted to use that. And I'm going to color this in Memento ink, or color it with my Copics, I mean, so I need to use Memento ink. I'm going to have that little house live right there on the tag. And then I haven't used any of the elves yet, so there's this cute little elf who's got like a very welcoming stance. So I don't know if he's welcoming us to his house, or I don't know what this is, but I sort of liked how that looked. Alright, so now I'm going to color this with my Copics, and I'll be back. Okay, now that we have that all colored, I'd like to add the sentiment. I've decided to add Merry Christmas to this, and I'm going to do it in the Lawn Fawn ink so it's nice and dark. Add that right here in the center of this tag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run both pieces that we stamped, the panel and this tag, through an embossing folder. And this one is by Stampin' Up! It looks like snow that's falling. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Look at the cool effect that gives. I love the texture to this, to both of these things. Love it. Alright, now I have a little piece of red ribbon that I'm going to tie a bow the top of this tag. Okay, now that we have the bow tied, I'm going to add some craft foam to the back of this so it pops up. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and while that's dry, I'm going to add adhesive to the back of this piece and attach that to a top fold white card, and then add some glue to the foam. And add our tag or our flag or whatever you want to call it to our front of our card. And there's card number 7. Alright, welcome to card 8. I die cut a rectangle out of white cardstock. I pulled out those snowbanks that we used back on, I think, card number 6, and I'm going to do a little bit more sponging. I'm going to start out with my light blue ink, and I'm using that snowbank just to create a shadow. Still holding that mask there. Start darkening up the bottom here. And then I am going to go back in with that light blue and fade that out. Kind of just softens the edges there by doing this. I like the soft gradient. It's almost like an ombre effect. Okay. Very cool. So we have this little hill on our card. To save some time, I did the coloring already. I colored in this house that we're going to put up here on the hill. And then I also colored in the sign that says Santa's Workshop. And I colored in that happy little elf that I like so much. And we're going to glue those down. Santa makes, or the elves make all of the toys. Maybe that's Santa's Workshop. Okay. Then I'm going to go into the stamps and pull out Santa and his sleigh. I'm going to ink them up in Lawn Fawn Black so they're nice and dark. And I'm going to stamp the sleigh. Maybe Santa's leaving for his adventure. And then I'm going to pull out, and I'm pulling out Happy Holidays. I wish this set had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays that were both written the long ways. Sometimes it's just nice to have that. And I didn't want to cut apart Merry Christmas. I didn't think I could do it without ruining the stamp. So then I'm going to center Happy Holidays and stamp that. But there we go. And then for some finishing touches, I'm going to get my two-way glue pen out. I'm going to add that to the snowbank. And all along this whole edge, just add some sparkle and shine to this card. And if a little extra glitter sticks here and there, I think it just looks like snow. It's kind of a neat effect. Okay, I just noticed I got another thumbprint on my cards. I've been doing that all day today. I think it's the Lawn Fawn ink. It doesn't dry as fast as Memento, and I forget it's there. But thankfully, this has been my best friend. It just takes it right off. So again, saved by the eraser, but holy cow. Ink everywhere. Saved again. I really do like how the glitter sticks in there. I don't know if it'll stay there long term. I wish there was a way to kind of add just that little dusting. I don't know if you could see it. I'm sure you could go in with your Wink of Stella. I'm not going to take the time to do that, or something like that to get that glitter, but it's really just kind of a neat thing. Now I'm going to take a piece of foam and glue it to the back of this panel just to give the card a little dimension because it is so simple. I'll flip that over. And there we go. We have card number 8 done. When I was doing card number 8, I remembered a stamp that Hero Arts released, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I had a thought about using it as a background for some of these images. The stamp originally was wood mounted. I unmounted it so I could use it in my Misty. And I'm also going to use the Hero Arts Ombre ink to create this snowy background. This, I think, this is the stamp. I know you can't really see it. Once it's stamped out, you'll see the image better. I think it's called like Winter Scene or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But I believe they still carry it. And all I'm doing is inking up that stamp with that ombre ink, and I'm making sure I'm getting really good coverage. I know it's in my Misty, but what I've learned is that with the ombre inks, it's a little bit harder to stamp over and over because you have the inks, you know, you don't want to pollute your ink. But I did find that I have pretty good luck with the stamp. Needs more pressure in the center. So just giving it a good nice push. I'm giving it a little bit of time for the ink to go from the stamp and soak into the paper. And look at that. So that's what the image looks like. I'm going to go take this over to my cutting board and I'm going to trim off those white edges. Okay, here it is. This is beautiful as it is, but because we're doing this for the kit, I colored some of the carolers, and I thought it would be fun if they were in this snowy scene singing Christmas carols. And there is this deer in here, and I was pretty sure that the deer wouldn't be excited about the carolers. So what I'm going to do is actually mask off the deer using the people so we don't even know that he's there. Or we kind of forget that he's there. Bye, dear. We'll have to see you on a different card. I cut out each of these carolers by hand. I don't know. Again, I don't really mind fussy cutting. So there you go. You don't even really know that there was a deer in this scene. Now, I had a little bit of a hard time deciding how I wanted to finish this off. I looked at all the sentiments that were in the stamp set, and I mean, you could put 'Tis the Season, you could put Merry Christmas, but I was like, I really wanted it to be something related to singing. So I am going to cheat and pull out a stamp from my collection. It's from Avery L, and it says Joy to the World on it. And with that Lawn Fawn black ink, I'm going to stamp Joy to the World. And there's also a music note, or a couple music notes in this set. I'm going to add those around just to accent that title. Set that aside. And then I'm going to finish off this card by just matting this onto some black cardstock and then some blue cardstock. There you go, that is card number 9. I hope you'll forgive me for pulling in a couple extra stamps, but I just love that background scene. I love that. It really makes the carolers pop. All right, welcome to the grand finale. I'm sharing my final card. I'm not going to show you how I made this. I'm just going to show you the finished product because it's... Hi, Ryan. Can I have a second, please? I'm not going to show you how I made this because it's probably a video all into itself. My goal was to use all the stamps in the stamp set to make this. I am a few short, especially in the sentiment department, but it was getting kind of busy and I thought enough's enough, and this is the final product. I'll put lots of pictures so you can see up close, but here is my little winter scene. What I like about this card is it stands up so the person who gets it can enjoy it on their desk or mantle or whatnot. But here we go. We've got the little train station. I love that the train kind of goes through the center of the card all the way back to Santa's village. So I kind of imagine the toys are made here. They're carried off to Santa's, the North Pole station, where Santa flies off and delivers them up to the boys and girls. And then I put some of the northern scene stuff up here. So I thought that would be cool. And actually the last thing I am going to do, and I'll do this right here, is I'm going to put a little bit of glitter. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me through all 10 cards. I hope you enjoyed and feel inspired. If you want to inspire me, please subscribe, hit like, leave a comment so I know that people are watching and I'm not crafting in the quiet void. I really appreciate that. I thank you for watching. We'll see what Hero Arts releases for November, and hopefully I'll make another set of cards. Thanks very much. Bye.